we know you closed the border last night. How did that decision come about and why now?
Oh, look, that was a very straightforward decision for us. On Saturday, we made the move amongst the very first country in the world to require everyone who was coming in to self-isolate. But our view was that not only were we continuing to see significant outbreaks abroad, but I'd just seen a suggestion that not everyone who was visiting New Zealand was complying with the requirements we were setting, and I wasn't willing to take any risks, so we've now shut it down.
Prime Minister, it's very easy for everyone to say just close the border, but obviously you have far more to consider than just that. So what is the biggest cost or the biggest consideration that you had to make in doing so?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This is extraordinary. I mean, we're in an extraordinary time, and so people probably forget the idea of closing New Zealand's border. That's a very big decision, but this is the time to do that. No one has done this with only 28 cases. Most countries who are making those kinds of decisions now are in the middle of significant outbreaks. We've wanted to get ahead. And so our decision-making was quite straightforward. What protects New Zealand's health? That's our primary focus, because if we protect and slow down transmission, we won't be able to stop cases. That no country in the world has done that. But if we can slow it down, then we can make sure that we treat people where they need to be treated and not overwhelm our hospitals. And that protects our economy. If you're a country devastated by COVID and everything shuts down, that has an even greater effect on our economy than jobs than what we're seeing now.
Can you talk me through the decision you will inevitably have to make around whether to close schools or not? Because I don't understand how we're being instructed in a lot of cases to work from home if you can, don't travel, and yet we are still sending our kids to school. And look, I'm still sending mine, but we're there at pick-up, we're there at drop-off. So when does that change?
Yeah, and I want just everyone to feel really assured. A huge amount of thought, including the scientific evidence and research, has gone into our decision-making around schools. So the first thing, we've been looking at what countries have been doing who have successfully managed coronavirus. So you see many places who have gone for mass shutdowns. Often that's in places where they have community transmission, so it's broken out and they can't trace people properly. We're in a situation where we still know of every case we have who people have been in contact with. Now, when we have a case, you'll see in Dunedin, we had a case that affected a school. When that happens, we will shut down the school and we'll shut it down for 72 hours. Two reasons for that. Then we can contact trace every close contact for that child or young person, self-isolate them, clean the school and reopen it. Now, some people might say, how can you clean a school that thoroughly? Well, actually, research now tells us COVID-19, actually after 72 hours, isn't on a surface anymore. And so even if we didn't clean the school thoroughly, we know that that's a good time to reopen it. If we're in a situation where we've got community outbreak and it's harder for us to trace, then we rethink the way we're using schools. A really important thing to keep in mind, though, actually, COVID isn't affecting children and young people in the same way as it is others. But children often, if they're not in school, will go and spend time with other children and often with grandparents. So we have to think about that as well.
What extra precautions are you personally taking you've got a child yourself, and I know from talking to your partner Clark last week, he travels with her a couple of times every week. Are you changing your behaviours?
Oh, yes, I am. And so we're asking every New Zealander, prepare. Don't panic, but prepare. Prepare for things like working from home if you can. Prepare to be ready to have to cancel non-essential travel. And that's what we're asking people to prepare for. And I will throw in an extra message there. Yes, we've closed our borders to people, but not products. So that means food will keep coming. We've had the heads of the 2 supermarket chains in New Zealand tell us very clearly food is not a problem, so people don't need to panic buy. The only reason there's a few empty shelves is because they can't restock them quickly enough. So that's really important for me to share. For me, I'm just by default travelling less anyway, because I do need to be here, making sure, of course, that I'm leading the response. Here being Wellington, so that does mean I am travelling less. And of course, I'm always pretty careful to avoid, because I I tend to be a person that has a lot of contact with people, so I follow the washing hands rule pretty carefully. But I'm not hugging people. I'm not shaking hands. No hongi. That's a change for me.
In terms of treating this disease, we've heard Trump come out and say there's been some drugs in terms of curing this thing as a game changer. Are you guys exploring those drugs? Do we have access? Will we have access to those kind of treatments?
So the first thing I'd say is the thing that will probably come first will be the ability to test whether or not someone has antibodies. So being able to test whether or not someone's had it, comes through it and has resistance to it now. That will likely come first. Then obviously many are racing to find a vaccine. And you'll see that you'll have heard that there's been trials going on around that. I think very few people are banking on that happening quickly because vaccines usually take quite some time. And so that's something that I suspect most people estimate would usually at least take a year. I know people are skipping stages, moving quickly to trial. The EU's trying to pull out all the stops on that. But we're planning as if we will need to wait some time for that, which is why our strategy, New Zealand's strategy, is to work very hard to slow down COVID. If we slow it down, and we're only dealing with small numbers of cases, we might have waves of them. We might have a bit of small waves. But if we slow it down, then we can treat everyone who needs treatment in our hospital system, and those who don't can stay at home.
Prime Minister, we are getting a lot of questions around these 28 confirmed cases. I think people are wanting to feel assured that of those cases, people are getting better. So what can you tell us about the people that have it?
Yes, I can tell you that the majority, it's only a handful off the top of my head, a very small number, I believe from memory less than 5, who have required treatment in hospital, for instance. And in those cases, for instance, I recall there were underlying health conditions there. So actually the vast bulk of those cases have been people who are at home. And so, experiencing mild to moderate symptoms. 80% of people who will have COVID-19 will be mild to moderate. They won't need anything more than just a bit of bed rest. But the issue is that there's a proportion, particularly if they have underlying health conditions, who will need more care than that. So if we have a large number of people who have it, then there'll be a number of people within that who might need care in hospital. So we need to make sure that we've got a small enough number that those people in hospital can be looked after.
How equipped are we hospital-wise? I'm someone that's got an autoimmune condition. If I was to get it, likelihood of needing to be on a ventilator is high.
Yeah, and we've heard there's only 5 emergency beds per 100,000 people of population.
So a couple of things that are really important to think about here. This is a 1 in 100 year really event. That's the way it's been described to me. So there is no health system in the world that would have the capacity within their hospital system to treat every single person if they have a tidal wave of cases. So if you have it rampant through your country, but there are 2 things that New Zealand has at its advantage. We have a very strong public health system, which is how you stop the wave. So of those 28 cases we have right now, every single one of their close contacts, the people that they've been within 2 metres of, through the time that they may have risked passing it on, we contact every single one of them and they self-isolate. Now, the countries that have been successful in slowing COVID down, that's exactly what they've done. That's exactly what we're doing. So that's what our public health system is doing, and that's how we've managed to help keep our cases low. And that's how we make sure that we have ICU beds. Of course, we have ICU beds throughout the country. We have ventilators to match them, but we need to make sure that we're not putting more demand on them than we need to. And so, obviously, as I say, from my memory is we've only had 2 that have been in hospital.
Right.
Okay. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, we really thank you for your time this morning. We know you're a busy woman. Keep fighting the good fight for us, and we will speak to you again with another update, I'm sure, in the coming weeks.
Look after yourselves, everyone. Remember, if you get together but you can't stay apart, then don't get together. Lots of social distancing at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.